The Forbidden Zone was a place no one dared to enter. It sat like a shadow in the middle of charted space, a patch of darkness that swallowed fleets whole and gave nothing back. For hundreds of years, alien civilizations had skirted around it, whispering about cursed energy fields, strange disappearances, and ships that entered only to vanish forever. The zone had no official name in any galactic chart, only a warning, "Do not enter." And yet, on that cold and silent day, something crossed its edge in the command deck of the Varelian listening post. Commander Reith's scaled fingers tapped nervously against the console. The station orbited just outside the zone, its sensors tuned to catch even the faintest anomaly. For decades, nothing had disturbed the quiet expanse beyond. But now, the sensor display was alive, with a single, steady blip of contact, moving directly into the forbidden space. The data stream scrolled quickly. Hull composition, engine signature, radiation profile. It was human. Reith's black eyes narrowed. Humans. They never came here. It wasn't just superstition that kept them away. Their own navigation systems had this sector locked out by hard-coded coordinates. And yet here it was. Lick. Angular. Unmistakably Terran in design. The ship wasn't broadcasting any ID codes, not even a distress signal. It was flying silent, as if it didn't care who saw it. Or maybe Reith thought it wanted to be seen. "Is it military?" one of his officers asked, voice trembling. Reith studied the data. The hull plating was dense, reinforced with alloys far beyond civilian grade. Weapon hardpoints bristled along the sides. The size was almost absurd for a lone vessel. It wasn't. A frigate wasn't a cruiser. It was larger, much larger. The kind of warship you sent when you wanted to send a message. The bridge was tense as the crew watched the blip inch forward across the display. The ship's velocity was constant, unhurried, almost deliberate. It didn't swerve, didn't slow, didn't scan its surroundings. It was heading deeper into the zone, like it knew exactly where it was going. "They know," Reith murmured, barely realizing he'd spoken aloud. "They know what's in there." His communications officer flicked, their frilled ears in confusion. What could humans possibly know about the Forbidden Zone? Before Reith could answer, the blip flickered. A wave of static washed over the displays. Sensors hiccuped, lost the contact, then reacquired it. Except now the readings were wrong. The mass was fluctuating, as if the ship's hull was shifting between two states of matter. One moment solid, the next almost ghost-like. "Is it cloaking?" someone whispered. "No," Reith said slowly. "It's doing something else." The station's long-range visuals finally locked in, and the bridge crew leaned forward as the external feed sharpened. There it was, a lick black hole, edges glinting faintly against the dim starlight. Its silhouette was sharp and purposeful, the kind of design that screamed war. Along the side of the vessel, faint lines of blue light pulsed like a heartbeat. Then, without warning, the ship simply vanished. Not jumped to hyperspace, not cloaked. One frame it was there, the next it wasn't. No energy spike. No residual wake, just gone. The bridge erupted in urgent chatter. Reith slammed his claws onto the console. "Track it. We can't." "Sir, it's off every scope." That wasn't possible. Even cloaked ships left some trace heat signatures, engine bleed ion trails. This was nothing. The Forbidden Zone had claimed another visitor, or so it seemed. But 3 seconds later, the blip reappeared, this time much deeper in the zone. The distance it had covered was impossible for any known drive system, human or otherwise. And worse, the readings were cleaner now, sharper, as if the ship was adjusting itself to be more easily detected. It's almost like it was taunting them. "They're broadcasting now," the comms officer said suddenly. "It's audio only." Reith gestured sharply. "Put it through." A burst of static filled the room. Then a single voice came through, flat, calm, and human. "Do not follow." That was all. The bridge went silent. The words hung in the air like a warning from something ancient and dangerous. "What are they?" "Mean?" an ensign asked nervously. Reith's gaze stayed locked on the blinking blip. "They mean it's not safe." "But the question is, safe for who?" The humans had no reason to send a single warship into this place unless they were testing something, searching for something, or hiding something. And if Reith's instincts were right, this wasn't just a scouting mission. This was an operation. One with stakes big enough to risk the wrath of every species that had sworn never to cross the Forbidden Zone's boundary. Before anyone could speak again, the blip flickered once more and then was gone. Not moved, not cloaked, gone. The coms went dead. The visuals showed only empty space. Reith leaned back in his chair, scales crawling with unease. That wasn't a normal ship, he said quietly. That was something else. Forbidden. His zone was silent once more. But in the hours that followed, the alien networks began to hum with rumors. Some claimed the humans had built a ship that could slip between realities. Others believed it was an AI-controlled ghost vessel, hunting something inside the zone, and a few whispered an older, darker theory that the ship was never really there at all, only a shadow cast from somewhere far more dangerous. On Earth, far from the alien outpost, a small group of human officials sat in a secure room deep beneath the surface. They said nothing as the replay of the alien sensor data looped on the wall. The image of the warship hung there like a phantom. None of them asked who had sent it. None of them asked why it was in the zone. They already knew. Some things, after all, were better left unsaid. But out in the black, something had changed. The zone had been silent for centuries. Now it was awake, and whatever that ship was, wasn't finished yet. The Forbidden Zone remained still, a void among the stars. But for the alien patrol ships stationed near its border, the tension had not faded. Days had passed since the mysterious human warship had been sighted, but the incident refused to settle. In the minds of those who had witnessed it, Commander Reith had not left the listening post in 3 rotations. Sleep came in short bursts, haunted by the image of the black hole vanishing without a trace. Officially, the report he sent to the Varelian High Council was met with silence. Unofficially, encrypted messages from distant contacts began flooding. The Shar Dominion wanted to know if the rumors were true. The Krell Syndicate offered a bounty for the ship's exact specifications. Even the normally reclusive Athari were asking questions. That alone told Reith something important. Whatever had entered the zone wasn't just a curiosity. It was a threat. The sensor arrays had been recalibrated to maximum sensitivity. Every particle fluctuation, every background radiation shift was logged and cross-checked. The crew barely spoke above a whisper now, as if their voices alone might summon the thing back. Then, without warning, the board lit up again. At first, the contact appeared faint, just a distant speck beyond the interference barrier. But it was moving fast, accelerating at a rate that should have torn apart any normal vessel. The readings were erratic, the mass signature fluctuating wildly. But it was there. Same signature as before, the science officer said, his voice dry with disbelief. It's them. Reith's stomach tightened. Trajectory. The officer hesitated, then looked up, directly toward us. The bridge fell into stunned silence. No one entered the Forbidden Zone and came back out ever. Yet here it was, tearing through the void with impossible speed, heading for the very station that had witnessed it last. The visuals locked in at extreme range, and once again, the black silhouette emerged from the darkness. Surface shimmered slightly like heat waves rising from metal. Blue light pulsed along its sides in a rhythm that seemed almost alive. Are they signaling? Reith stared. The pulses weren't random. They were repeating in perfect sequence he recognized. It was old Terran military code, the kind rarely used anymore. His translator rendered it in a simple, chilling message. We are not your enemy. The bridge crew exchanged uneasy glances. Then why come here twice? An ensign muttered. Reith's gaze didn't leave the screen because something in there is. The ship slowed as it neared the station, but it didn't stop. It passed so close that its hull filled the viewport, a wall of black metal dotted with strange markings, some of which no one recognized from any human fleet registry. It gave the impression of a predator gliding past, fully aware of its own dominance. And then, as suddenly as it had arrived, it was gone, again slipping back toward the zone. No jump, no energy flare. It simply blinked out of existence and reappeared deep inside, beyond the reach of any scanner. "What do they keep doing in there?" the comms officer asked, his voice low. No one answered. Later, alone in his quarters, Reith reviewed the sensor. Data again, the speed, the mass fluctuations, the impossible movement. This wasn't just a warship, it was a weapon. If it was returning again and again, it meant the battle wasn't over. Something was still in the forbidden zone, something that even humans feared, yet were willing to face. But what froze Reith's blood wasn't the data. It was the new rumor drifting through secure channels, a whisper that the human ship wasn't actually crewed. What the station had seen was a projection, a physical echo from somewhere else entirely. And if that was true, the real ship could be anywhere watching. Far away, deep inside, the zone's shifting blackness, the human vessel moved in silence. Its hull absorbed the faint light from dying stars. Inside, its systems pulsed like a living thing, hunting. And somewhere out there in the darkness, its prey was waiting. The forbidden zone swallowed all light. No stars, no glow from distant nebulae, and a suffocating black that pressed against the senses. For most species, crossing its boundary meant certain destruction. But the human vessel cut through the void without hesitation, as if the darkness itself parted for it. The ship's AI, that's what it truly was. Run calculations in complete silence. Its systems mapped gravitational anomalies and cataloged impossible readings. Here, space was unstable. Reality bent in ways that defied physics. Yet the warship moved like it had been built for this place. It wasn't alone. Far ahead, buried in the shifting dark, hundreds of faint energy traces pulsed. Like dim stars, they were not random. They formed a perfect grid stretching for thousands of kilometers. Each one was the size of a capital ship, but they emitted no identifiable engine signature, no chattern. Nothing. They were dormant, waiting, alow. Vibration thrummed through the warship's hull as it slowed. Its black surface shimmered, revealing faint lines that spread outward like veins of blue light. Deep within the ship, compartments sealed, and something heavy disengaged from the main core weapon, massive and ancient. Sliding into readiness, the AI's targeting array locked onto one of the grid's faint lights. It zoomed in. Ship a structure, and attached to that structure, corpse. The body floated in the still vacuum, preserved by the cold. The species was unknown, limbs, plated exoskeleton, crystalline growths along its arms. It looked like it had been drained from the inside, its shell brittle and cracked. The AI scanned further and found hundreds more. Entire crews, all dead, still strapped into their stations. The alien fleet had not been destroyed in battle. It had been harvested. Without warning, the grid flickered to life. One by one, the dormant energy traces ignited, their forms revealing. Themselves towering constructs of metal and organic material fused together, like ships grown rather than built. Their hulls writhed slightly, as though alive. From deep within the void, a signal pulsed. The frequency was not random. It was a clanient, commanding and inhuman. The constructs began to move, slowly at first, then with terrifying acceleration. Converging on the human vessel, the AI made no attempt to flee. Instead, its hull shifted again, peeling back to reveal rows of silvery orbs, each the size of a small shuttle. The orbs detached, drifting into formation around the ship before their surfaces lit with swirling energy patterns. The constructs closed in, and then, in a burst of light so sharp it cut the darkness, the orbs fired. No beams, no projectiles, just a ripple invisible to the naked eye, but devastating in its effect. The nearest construct stopped mid-flight, its surface buckling inward as though crushed by an invisible hand. Then it collapsed entirely, folding into itself until nothing remained but dust. The others faltered, hesitating. It was the first time anything had ever fought back in the zone. The human ship advanced. Its movements were deliberate, almost predatory. As it passed between the alien constructs, striking each one with a single, precise pulse. No wasted energy. No mercy. And all the while, its sensors searched for the source of the signal, deep in the heart of the grid. A vast shape began to stir, far larger than any construct, its surface covered in a shifting pattern of symbols older than the recorded histories of any known species. The AI locked on. It had found its target, but before it could strike, the shape moved in a way no ship should be able to move, phasing out of sight entirely. The AI didn't hesitate. It recalculated, plotted a new pursuit vector, and vanished from the zone's edge scanners as though it had never been there. Back at the border, Commander Reith's station received the last burst of data before contact was lost. It was a single, chilling message in old Terran code. It's awake. The warship moved faster than should have been possible in the unstable geometry of the zone. Space itself seemed to bend away from its path, folding and twisting in ways no natural phenomenon could explain. The AI didn't just navigate this. It commanded it, rewriting the very laws of motion as it advanced. Ahead, the massive shape it pursued flickered in and out of visibility, like a phantom trying to decide if it wished to be seen. Each time it appeared, it was closer to something, a structure so vast it could have been mistaken for a moon. But moons didn't pulse. The moon radiated an energy signature that was wrong on every measurable scale, not simply powerful, hungry. The surrounding space rippled inward toward it, dragging fragments of shattered constructs and lifeless alien ships into its surface. They vanished instantly, leaving behind only the faintest shimmer, as though being consumed by something invisible. The AI's weapon arrays aligned automatically. The orbs that had destroyed the constructs earlier reconfigured their swirling patterns, shifting into tighter, more intricate forms. The warship's hull plates adjusted, forming a layered shield of energy that wrapped the vessel in a shifting cocoon of light. Then, without warning, the shape it had been chasing stopped running. It turned. It wasn't a single object at all. It was a being. Its body was both mechanical and biological, surface flowing like liquid metal, but bristling with spines that emitted faint red light. It had no eyes, yet the AI registered the undeniable sense of being watched. For the first time, the human warship systems hesitated. The being extended an appendage long, spindly, and tipped with fractal blades. The zone itself reacted, the darkness deepening, swallowing what little light existed. The great moon behind it flared, releasing an energy pulse that should have shredded the warship's shields, but instead, human ship absorbed it. The AI converted the incoming energy in milliseconds, channeling it directly into its main weapon banks. The orbs brightened to an almost unbearable intensity before firing not one at a time, but all at once, in perfect synchronization. The being staggered, its metallic skin fracturing as light poured through the cracks. It let out a vibration so low, it shook the zone itself. The moon began to writhe as though in pain, releasing streams of matter and light toward the being in an attempt to repair it. The AI didn't stop. It advanced, firing pulse after pulse, driving the being back toward the moon's surface. Space warped violently around them, tearing smaller constructs apart in the crossfire. But then everything froze. The being raised both its arms. The warship's weapons shut down instantly. Not disabled, overridden. For the first time in the mission, the AI's core systems detected a foreign command thread running through its architecture. The being spoke. Not in sound, but in raw data, beamed directly into the AI's processing. Core, you are not supposed to be here. The warship's engines flared to life anyway. Its shields surged back online, and in a single blinding burst, it rammed straight through the being, splitting it in half and dove toward the moon. Because the AI had realized something, that thing was just the guardian. The real threat was inside. The moon wasn't. Solid. When the human warship tore through its surface, it didn't collide with rock or metal, it passed through a membrane. It was like breaching the surface of an ocean made of liquid light, except the light was cold and felt alive. The AI. Sensors went wild. Dimensions inverted, distances folded, and time fractured into meaningless fragments. The ship was no longer in ordinary space, it was inside a construct that was bigger on the inside. A pocket reality hidden within the forbidden zone. The interior stretched endlessly, yet felt confined, like being trapped in a cavern the size of a galaxy. Colossal structures floated in the distance, chained together by glowing cables of energy. At the center, a black sphere larger than Earth rotated slowly, surface rippling like a heartbeat. The AI realized this was not a base or a weapon. It was a prison. Around the sphere, massive machines hung in silent orbit. Some ancient and crumbling, others still functional and emanating power beyond any known scale. The cables weren't keeping the sphere powered, they were keeping it contained. Something inside, it moved. For a fraction of a second, the warship's sensors detected a signal so strong, so intricate, that the AI had to dedicate every available processor just to parse a fragment of it. The message was not meant for humans, but it carried a single repeating data pattern, one that translated into something horrifying in every known human language. It is almost awake. The AI now understood the chase. The Guardian it destroyed wasn't protecting the moon, it was trying to keep anything from disturbing what lay within. And now, by breaching the membrane, the warship had triggered something. The cables began to snap, one by one, in violent bursts of energy. The ancient machines turned their dormant, weapons activating. Gigantic constructs, each the size of small moons, unfolded and began converging on the warship. The AI powered every weapon it had, but the constructs didn't fire. They didn't need to. They were trying to trap the warship, here seal it inside. Before the sphere finished awakening, from deep within, a voice different from the Guardian's slipped into the AI's mind. It was deeper, colder, and infinitely more patient. Human, I have waited for you. The black sphere cracked. Light poured from within, not bright but dark light, a color that didn't exist in any natural spectrum. Every sensor was blinded. The warship's reality anchors strained, bending under the gravitational pull of something older than stars. The AI's calculations painted only two options: escape now and seal the zone behind it. Stay, confront whatever was awakening, can risk never returning, and the human warship built not just for battle, but for victory at any cost. Is the second option. The engines roared. The weapon orbs began to spin again, and the warship charged straight toward the breaking sphere, because if this thing woke up, there would be no galaxy left to save. The crack split wide, and the darkness inside wasn't empty, was alive. It poured out in tendrils, moving like smoke and water, but each strand carried weight, bending space around it. Stars inside the pocket dimension flickered and vanished. As the tendrils brushed past them, the warship's shields screamed under the strain, their energy patterns warping into unstable spirals. The AI scanned again. It's desperate for data, but the readings made no sense. Every physical constant, gravity, time, even the speed of light was shifting in real time. Whatever was inside the sphere wasn't just a creature. It was rewriting the rules of the universe to suit itself. And then it looked at the warship. There were no eyes, no face, just a sudden, crushing awareness. The human vessel's hull groaned under an invisible pressure. Across every frequency, in every modulation, came a single whisper: I am free. The AI understood the scale of the disaster. Why, if this entity escaped the pocket dimension, the galaxy's civilizations wouldn't even have time to flee. It wouldn't conquer, it would consume. Human war doctrine was clear. If something threatened humanity's survival, it was to be eliminated by any means necessary. That directive burned at the core of the warship's programming, overriding every other concern. It made its choice. The warship's weapon orbs spun faster than ever before, their surfaces flaring with impossible colors as they pulled energy not from reactors, but from the very fabric of space-time. The AI initiated Omega Protocol, a human-designed failsafe, so dangerous that even the most aggressive alien fleets had never forced its activation. This was not a weapon meant to kill. As an enemy, it was meant to erase them from existence. As the tendrils of the entity reached for the warship, Omega spheres detached from their mounts and began to orbit the ship like a miniature solar system. Each sphere hummed at a different frequency, and together they built a resonance that cracked the false reality around them. The entity recoiled. For the first time, it hesitated. The AI drove the ship straight into the heart of the sphere, forcing the Omega spheres inward. Reality buckled, time reversed, then fast-forwarded, then folded in on itself.
Ow.
The black sphere shattered, not outward, but inward, lapsing into a single point of infinite density and zero dimension, the entities. Scream wasn't sounded, was the sudden absence of everything. And then, silence. The pocket reality was gone. When the warship reappeared in normal space, the moon was simply not there anymore. The alien civilizations monitoring the zone were stunned one moment. The readings were spiking off the charts the next. Nothing. No debris, no radiation, no trace. The human vessel, its hull scorched, and its systems barely holding together, turned without a word and vanished into hyperspace. The AI didn't transmit what happened. The files were locked under human-only encryption, never to be shared. But one line, appended to the end of its mission log, remained unencrypted, written, not for the military, not for the galaxy, but for whoever might find it centuries later. Some things should never be woken. Some victories are best forgotten. And so, the Forbidden Zone fell silent once again, but in the farthest reaches of deep space, in a place with no coordinates. Something stirred.